Hey guys, welcome back. Today is the first day in about 6 weeks that the temperature is going to go above freezing here in Pennsylvania. So I want to make sure that I get all of my fruit bushes and trees pruned today because it's supposed to go up to 55 degrees, believe it or not, after like 6 weeks of sub-zero temperatures. So I don't want the stuff to start waking up before I get it pruned. You really should prune it while it's dormant. So I want to hurry up and do that this morning, even though obviously these are not ideal conditions. There's still like between 12 to 18 inches of snow in my garden on the ground. So some of my plants I'm going to have to dig to even find them. But I do want to get it done today just before they start waking up, like I said. So we're going to go in and just go for it. Now, clearly, I did not do a great job of keeping the weeds down last summer or cutting them down at the end of fall. But honestly, a lot of times I leave the weeds there on purpose at the end of fall because it helps to insulate the plants and protect them from the cold weather, which this year we had just a ridiculous amount of days that were below zero, either temperatures or wind chills. So I'm glad I left the weeds, but it does cause a little dilemma for me right now because now I have to deal with the weeds in order to get to the plants to prune them. So I'll do that in a minute, but let me just show you what we're gonna do here. I will link a video by Melissa K. Norris that talks about like more detail about what and where to prune on your blueberry bushes, because it's a really good video and it's what I use. I just rewatched it again this morning before I started pruning, and I watch it every year before I start pruning because it's just a really great resource to know what to cut off and what not to. But basically you want to cut off anything that is dead, so dead branches, broken branches, things like that. That's the first thing you're going to cut off. Secondly, you're going to look for flowering buds. So I don't know if you can see this too well, but I try to get, so can you see right there? Here we go. At the end of this, that little bud there, that is a flowering bud or a fruiting bud. And that means there will be fruit from that this coming year. So anywhere you see that, that's where your fruit is going to come from. You want to leave those on there. You don't want to cut those off unless the branch is diseased or broken or something like that. So the stuff like this is older wood. If it looks dead and old, you can just cut it off. If you have the we're trying to find a younger one. This one's a little bit younger. It's not a first year, but it is a little bit younger. There we go. So it's thinner and it doesn't have all of the thick bark on it and whatever. This is a younger branch. This is probably going to be more productive, but again, you'll be able to tell by how many fruiting buds it has. You can see this has one here. This one doesn't look super great. There's one down here and one back here. So not a ton. So you want to look for the fruiting buds, like I said, and that's where your fruit is going to come from. Now, if you are going to prune stuff off, there's a way that you want to do it. So anywhere that you see a little bud like this, if you're going to prune something, you want to prune it right above that bud at a 45-degree angle. So that'll do two things. Number one, the 45-degree angle helps the rain to run off of it instead of sitting on top of it, which can cause rot. And then secondly, when you prune just above a bud, that bud will then shoot out new growth. So you can basically choose the shape of your bush or tree by choosing which buds to cut right above. So if you want a branch to go this way, then you'd cut right above this one and that'll put out a branch. So you basically find the buds that are facing the direction you want them to face and you cut right above them, and you can actually control the shape of your bush or tree. So that's kind of cool. Now, with most plants, you want to have good airflow so they don't get disease or things like that. So you want to make sure the middle doesn't get too crowded. You want to make sure nothing is crisscrossing or rubbing against each other. If they are, take the stronger branch and leave that and cut off the weaker one. And again, like I said, I'll post her video because she does go into a little more detail too, but that's basically what I'm going to be doing here. And then after I get done with the blueberry bushes, which I have all along this row here, and then I have some more blueberry bushes in this row, Then I'm gonna move down to the next row down. I have some cherry bushes, and I'll get those done. And then we're gonna move on over down below the barn. I have some fruit trees over there. So we're gonna try to get over there if I can get the quad through the snow. It's pretty deep, so we'll have to see if I can get over there. I guess if I can't get the quad over there, I'll just have to hike it. But we will start here on the blueberries and then make our way down. Okay, I'm super bummed out. I just realized 2 of the blueberry bushes that I just bought last year got broken somehow all the way down. Like, look at all these branches that just broke off. I'm not sure how that happened. I have a fence around my garden, and in the snow, you can see a lot of bunny tracks, but rabbits wouldn't have bit it off all the way up here. They would have eaten down below. So I'm a little confused. I haven't seen a single deer footprint in the garden. This looks like what a deer would do. But I haven't seen any footprints in the snow. We've had snow on the ground for over a month now. I haven't seen a single deer footprint anywhere. I see lots of bunnies, I see birds, a couple mice, but nothing that would do that. So I don't know how that happened. I don't know if it was the high winds. We did have a few storms. Possibly the high winds snapped the branches off. Not sure, but this one and that one so far, which are like the first 2 I even looked at, are broken off completely. So a little bummed out. I'll see what I can do cleaning them up, trying to prune them, and seeing if I can get some new growth coming from some of the buds, because the roots should still be intact. I mean, it should still be alive, but I'm gonna have to wait a little longer for fruit, I think, from those ones. So a little bit bummed out. Hopefully they're the only 2. Hopefully I'm not gonna find the same thing all the way down both rows of blueberries, but hey, it is what it is, and we're gonna deal with what we got. All right, so to do this job, I am using some ratchet pruners. If you have any thicker branches you need to cut, I do have loppers. Let me grab those too. They're a little bit covered in snow right now, but these are the loppers. So these are like really heavy duty. I will admit I have like very weak wrists and like hands and grip and stuff, but even I, with my weak grip, anything I can fit between these blades, I can cut. So they really give you a lot of leverage. They make it easy to make hard cuts, like thick cuts. So anyways, I love these. So that's what I use. Now, if you're doing this properly, you should sanitize your pruners before you start and sanitize them in between every bush that you do, because that way if one bush has some kind of disease, you won't spread it to the rest of the bushes. So kind of like, just like medical utensils get washed in between patients, it's the same idea with your garden tools in between plants and bushes. Now, do as I say, not as I do, because I am on a tight schedule today. I'm just gonna wipe them clean with my glove in between and, you know, rinse them in the snow. What you would usually want to do is either like rubbing alcohol or like hydrogen peroxide or something in between each plant. But again, do as I say, not as I do. I'm in a hurry, so I'm gonna do what I do. Okay. All right, there's a couple broken ones down here. I'm gonna snip these off because they're broken and because they're growing towards the center of the plant, which is going to rub against the other ones. This one's growing towards the center. I'm gonna cut that off. This one, this doesn't really look like much of anything's happening here. Let me just cut that off. So the more unproductive stuff you can cut off, the better the productive branches will do. Like your fruit will be bigger, you'll have more fruit on the ones that are doing well, if you cut off all the extra stuff, so the plant's not giving energy to those parts of the plant. Now last year I had, sorry you can't see my face in the picture. Last year I got a huge bumper crop off of this one. So usually they do like every other year you'll get like a huge bumper crop. I'm not seeing a ton of fruiting buds this year, which doesn't surprise me. I think probably the following year I'll have more, but I'm just gonna prune off basically what's dead and anything that's like crisscrossing or too cluttered. All right, hopefully you can see this okay, but this branch right here, the branch itself looks healthy and fresh, but it doesn't have any fruiting buds on it at all. So what I'm gonna do is cut it off. We're gonna get right above this leaf bud here. Can you see that? There we go. Right above that leaf bud, I'm gonna cut it off, and hopefully this will throw out a new branch, and then maybe that branch will fruit. Because I don't want to cut the whole branch off, because like I said, the branch itself looks good. It just doesn't have any fruiting buds. So we need to kind of give it a jump start and try to get it to start producing. So I'm gonna cut off right above that bud. That will send out a new branch this year, and then maybe that will have fruiting buds on it next year. I gotta tell you, it sure is nice to hear the birds chirping right now. It's been a long, cold winter. I think for everybody in the country this year. All right, I've gotten this one cleaned up to the point where I'm gonna leave it for this year. So I'm gonna move on to the other ones. I just wanted to show you what I am planning to do with these ones that got broken. So it's kind of hard to tell right now. Oh goodness, hold on a second, I'm tangled in a weed. Get out of there, okay. Ooh, all right, yep. Sorry about the sound effects, okay. Anywho, it's kind of hard to tell with all the snow on the ground, but these are like kind of like new suckers, like new shoots that grew out of the ground beside the main trunk. This was the main trunk of the plant that I bought last year, and then it sent out new shoots out along the sides, which is great. You don't want to have like 15 of them, but if you have like maybe, I don't know, like 5, 6 like really strong good shoots, that's great. What I'm gonna do here is, this branch still looks okay, so I'm just gonna cut this one down to where it meets the base here. I'll just cut that off to make a nice clean cut so we don't get infection there. And then I'm gonna do the same thing down here with this, and I'm gonna do, well, okay, see this one over here, there is a bud right here, a little leaf bud. I don't know if you can see that. The camera is not focusing well, but there we go. So I'm actually gonna cut just above this bud, and then that should send out a new branch this way this year. So I'll do that. The other 2 broken branches, I'm just gonna cut down to where they meet the base. Over here, I may need to wait on these other branches until some of this snow melts, which hopefully by tomorrow, most of the snow should be melted because it's supposed to rain today. Like this is one of the branches that broke off that I just found in the snow here. And it could have been snow load that broke the branches, honestly, now that I think about it. We did have a lot of snow and ice. So whatever happened, they're broken. We're gonna clean them up. This one down here is snapped, so I will probably just cut this right at the base here and just let the bigger branches take over, because these, I can just trim the top off of this to make a clean cut instead of having that broken, jagged cut there, and that should help prevent infection. I will take off this little guy right here, and same thing over here, just take off the little broken short parts and then leave the main branch. This one looks kind of dead actually, so I'll probably cut off this whole branch right here at the stem. And then I will go, it looks like there's a bud right here, so I'll go right above that, and hopefully a new healthy branch will grow out of there. So that's how I'm gonna clean this one up. I'm running a little short on time, so I'm gonna stop filming this part. I will pick it back up when we get to the trees, because those are a little bit different. All right, I finished all the berry bushes, so now I'm gonna start pruning the trees. It's kind of the same idea here. You wanna cut off anything that's dead, cut off anything that's crisscrossing, and just anything that's like too dense in the middle. You want good airflow all around them. Now, different types of trees require different shapes of pruning. So I have here, this is an apple tree. I have another apple tree over to my left. Those you want to have usually like a strong central branch right up the middle with branches that stem out. Behind you, I have a peach tree. Now with stone fruit, which is like peaches, cherries, things like that, or I'm sorry, peaches, plums. I don't know if cherries are stone fruit or not, I'll have to check, but you want to have more of like an upside down umbrella shape. You want to have it open in the middle with branches coming out from the main trunk at the bottom, just coming out and coming up like an upside down umbrella. So that's the only difference with the trees as opposed to the bushes. So I'm just gonna do the same thing on these trees as I did on the bushes. All right, one of these apple trees is a Jonathan apple, which I think is this one. I think this is the Jonathan apple tree. And then I have over there is Honeycrisp apple. And then behind us, that is my peach tree. Now I know that last year the peach tree did have some fungus on the leaves, so I'm gonna do that one last just so I don't spread any fungus to the apples. So I'll start with this guy here. And the first thing I'm gonna do is get this vine off of it. I don't know how well you can see this. The lighting's really bad out here because of the reflection off of the snow, but there's a vine tangled around it. So I'm gonna take that off first, and then I'm gonna start pruning just the same way I did with the blueberry bushes. So I'm cutting this one off down here. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's a little bit close to the ground for me. I don't want many that are like close to the ground, close to the bottom, because when they get loaded up with fruit, they'll be heavy, and then the fruit will actually be touching the ground, and you don't want that. You want the fruit up off the ground so it doesn't get rotten. This branch here is growing in towards the center of the tree. So I'm gonna pick a spot where there's a bud on the outside of that branch facing out, and I'm gonna cut just above that bud so that that will send out a shoot going the other direction. So this is how you can choose the direction that your branches go on your trees. You also want to keep in mind, you want to keep your tree well balanced. So you really want to try to aim for the same number of branches in each direction so that it's not heavy to one side or the other. Okay, so you see this branch right here. This one is growing down towards the ground. I don't want that. I don't want it aiming towards the ground because, again, if it gets longer and it gets fruit on it, it's gonna end up drooping down towards the ground. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna cut it. See this bud right here? This is growing up. I'm gonna cut this off just above that bud to encourage this bud to shoot out and grow up so I can change the direction of this branch. I'm gonna take it from going down, I'm gonna have it at this point shoot straight up, and that way I will eliminate that problem of it growing down towards the ground. So I'm doing 45-degree angle, nice clean cut. There we go, we did it. So now that branch will start growing up instead of down. Now all these little twigs that you're cutting off, like each one of these little jut outs, these branches, you can cut individually and you can plant these and grow new trees off of them. I did try this last year. I took this and dipped it into some raw honey because that is a rooting hormone. I did that and then planted it in potting soil, but I did not have success with growing roots on them. And I am pretty sure I forgot to scrape off some of the outer bark. That does help, but I think this year I'm gonna try again because I really want to be able to learn how to propagate this stuff. So I'm gonna try again this year, but instead of using potting soil, I'm going to strip off the outer bark of the bottom of it and then leave it in a glass of water. And I'll see if I can get it to root in the water before I put it into the potting soil. But I'm gonna try to do that. Like I have one little thing that I cut off of the blueberries. I'll see if that works. And then I'll try and do that with some of these fruit trees. The thing you want to watch though is a lot of fruit trees are grafted. So if you cut something off down at the bottom, if it's below the graft point, you might end up with a different type of tree. Like that might be something completely different. So you want to make sure it's above the grafting point if you do that. Now, I don't think this tree was grafted, but many trees are. So you just want to watch for that. Then there's one more thing too. These guys down here, these are actually coming out of the same root. They're not attached to the trunk. They're coming up straight through the ground, but they are from the same root system as this tree. I believe these are called suckers. If that's not the correct technical term, I'm sorry, but I think that's what they're called. The tree will shoot up suckers from the roots. This is the same thing. You can cut this off at ground level and then you can plant these and, you know, try to root them first and see if you can plant them, you'll make a new tree. So it's a free way to propagate new trees with something that you were just going to throw away anyway. So I'm going to give it a try again. Like I really want to keep trying until I figure it out because that's a great way to save money on a homestead. So we'll give it a try again this year and see if it works. Okay, I'm just looking up here. I might have to go get my step stool. I don't really want this tree to get any taller because I want to be able to reach all the fruit from the ground. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but if you want smaller trees but you want a lot of production, you don't have to buy a dwarf tree, which will produce less. You can buy a regular tree and just keep on pruning it back every year. You can top it off so that it doesn't get beyond a certain height and just train it just like I did, where you cut right above a bud that you want the branch to grow in that direction. You can just train it to grow sideways instead of straight up. So I think I might go get my step stool. I'm not gonna have time to do it right this second, but when I'm done, I might come back and just cut off the tops so that I can reach all the fruit from the ground. All right, I think for now I'm done with this one until I come back with my ladder, because I have to decide between these two branches which one I want to cut off because they're going to grow into each other. But I want to get up there and see which way the buds are facing and try to get a good cut to have it grow out that way. So I'm going to come back to this one when I get my ladder, but I'm going to do the same thing on my other two trees, and then we should be good for the trees. Hey guys, it's the next day. I did not have time to come back out here and top off these trees yesterday. I still have two kids living at home, neither one of whom drives yet, so I'm pretty much a full-time Uber, and I just had to like drive my kids everywhere, get dinner made, do the laundry and all that stuff. So didn't get back to it last night, but I'm gonna try today right now to top off the tree. Like I said yesterday, I want to be able to reach all the fruit from standing on the ground. I don't want to have to get ladders out and get into all that when it's time to harvest. So I am going to try and top it off to where I can reach it. So here we go. I had to get a different pair of pruners because I left my other ones inside yesterday and I didn't feel like hiking all the way back up the hill to get them. So again, I'm looking to make sure wherever I make the cuts that the tree is still going to be well balanced. So the same number of branches on each side, and that nothing is crisscrossing. Here, these two are crossing each other right there, so I'm gonna get that one. But I'm looking at where I want the branches to go. So I'm trying to find buds that are facing the right direction, that are gonna send a shoot in the direction I want it to go. And again, you can save all those little twigs and try to plant them and root them. I already took some yesterday that I have inside trying to root them, so I don't need all these extras. Okay, so this is not something that I'm a super expert on or anything like that, but when I'm looking for which branches to keep, I do want to take into consideration the angle that the branches are going. For instance, this one here, it's, as you can see, as it's growing out, it's starting to bend down. I don't really like that because I don't want the fruit hanging down low towards the ground. That's how you get disease and how animals get to it and things like that. I'd rather it be facing up, growing up, or at least horizontal. I don't really want something that bends down towards the ground. So I am eliminating some of those branches. Like this one I left, but I cut it short because you can see there's a bud right here. So I cut it just below that, hoping that this bud will grow out and it'll grow up from this point on. So even if it's angled down right here, I'm okay with that if it starts growing up from here. So I'm really just playing around with the shape of the tree at this point. Just trying to get the branches to go the way I want them to, which I think is pretty cool that you can do that, just judging on, or based upon like which direction the little, I don't know what these call it, little buds, I guess, are facing. Any bud that you want to grow, like I said before, just cut right above it at a 45-degree angle and that bud will shoot out. It'll send out a sprout. So yeah, so right now, like I said, I'm just kind of looking to see. I do want some more branches that go this way, but like this one's pretty straggly and I don't know that I love the angle of it because it is slightly, it's hard to tell from this angle, but it's slightly tilted down towards the ground. So I'm just like playing around with it up there. That's why you see me humming and hawing, looking around at the tree, just trying to come up with the best plan. But that is what I'm doing. If there's something you're not sure whether or not you want to cut off, you can always just leave it there for this year and then see where it's at next year and cut it off next year. Because I do this every single year. I'll come back and just reshape and trim, and you know, things grow over each season that you might not necessarily want there. So it is something you can do and redo each year to make adjustments to it. So if you're not sure, just leave it on the tree. Okay, I think I got it to the point where I want it. When I stick my hand up in the air, I can pretty much reach the top, so happy with that. And I'm gonna zoom in and show you one thing because I made this mistake last year and don't want you to make this mistake. Okay, so last year I got a little overzealous, and you see all these little buds all along the branch here. I believe those are going to produce fruit this year. So this tree, it's an apple tree. It had produced fruit the year previous to last. And then last year, I couldn't understand why I didn't have any fruit because I'm like, I know this tree fruits. It fruited last year. Why is there no fruit? But then I came to realize I got a little overeager when I was pruning and I cut off every single tiny little bud that was on every branch thinking like, oh, I don't want branches to grow there. But it did not occur to me like that is probably where the fruit was coming from. So don't do that. At this point now, I only cut off branches that are branches. I don't bother cutting off the little buds because again, if a branch grows in a direction you don't want it to, then just cut it off after it grows. You know, like you don't have to do it ahead of time. It won't hurt anything to let it grow and then cut it off later. So anyways, just wanted to give you that heads up. Don't do that if you want your tree to actually produce fruit. Make sure you leave those little buds on there. All right, so I think that's probably it for this video, guys. I'm gonna have some more videos coming out as I'm doing different projects around the farm. We need to clean out the greenhouse coming out soon. I gotta get that going, get all the heat mats set up for my seeds. I have a lot of stuff I need to do in the garden. Ripping out a bunch of weeds from last year, getting plastic laid down and spaces that I'm covering for this year. putting some trellises up, things like that. Like we're gonna do a lot of rearranging in the garden as always, and just a lot of other farm projects coming up. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss anything, and I will see you in my next video. God bless.